We met in actually the press room at the Broncos, April of 2002.
Tony Busby is the same attorney that filed the lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy, alleging they both sexually assaulted a minor, which has since been withdrawn. Jay-Z has now countersued Busby.
The sports world has been rocked by shocking accusations that have left many questioning the legacy of NFL Hall of Famer and ESPN analyst Shannon Sharpe. Known for his charismatic presence on television and his iconic football career, Sharpe's has now found himself embroiled in a highly publicized scandal. The allegations have shaken the foundation of his career, with accusations of sexual assault and abuse coming from Michelle Evans, a woman who claims Sharpe assaulted her during a violent confrontation back in 2010. But these allegations are not just another tabloid headline. The severity of the claims and the emotional testimonies from the accusers have sparked a media firestorm, leading to public debates about Sharpe's innocence, his character, and his future in the spotlight. As the allegations surfaced, it quickly became clear that this would not be a simple case of public scrutiny. With Sharpe vehemently denying the accusations and Evans sharing a deeply emotional account of her trauma, the story has developed into something far more complex. The accusations are not just about a man being accused of a crime, they are about the power dynamics, the media manipulation, and the widespread impact such a case can have on both the individual and their larger community. Today, we are going to take a deep dive into the full breakdown of the allegations against Shannon Sharpe, from the disturbing details shared by his accuser, Michelle Evans, to the emotional reactions of both Sharpe's defenders and critics. We'll also examine the ongoing legal battles, the media circus that has ensued, and what the future holds for Sharpe as he faces these serious allegations. Is this a case of false accusations, or the unraveling of a dark truth that has been hidden for years? We'll explore all angles and hear from those who have weighed in on this scandal. Buckle up, because this story is far from over.
We met in actually the press room at the Broncos, April of 2002. And but we didn't start talking until we met up at a club at Blue 67 in Denver. I don't know if anyone is listening from Denver, but yeah, we were at a club at the same time. We didn't go together. We just happened to both be there. And so he started talking to me, and he started pursuing me pretty heavily from then on. I resisted for a while because I was a reporter, and I didn't want to mix the two. But he's very charming. And we dated until the 2010 incident. And then it came to an abrupt end because I wanted, we were arguing and he was threatening me and stuff like that after, but I didn't see him again after he raped me.
What led up to that fight, that 2010 fight that you guys, I know that the argument ensued first before he allegedly raped you?
The argument was about the fact that he had removed one girl from his house and put another girl in his house and didn't tell me. And he had asked me to break up with my husband at the time. We were just dating, so I was dating Shannon and my husband at the same time. Shannon asked me to break up with my husband, and I don't recall for sure, but I think I did. And so, it's like, wait a minute, you want me to be with just you, but you want to move somebody into your house and not even tell me? So that's what it stemmed from. He's not a faithful person, so I wasn't going to be faithful to a non-faithful person. It just doesn't work that way, not for me anyway.
Can you tell us just broadly, I know it's probably painful to relive this situation, but can you tell us generally what happened that day?
It was fighting, and usually we fought on the phone and not in person. So it was the biggest argument that we ever got in. And he was controlling, he was domineering, he was manhandling me beforehand, and he wanted to have sex, and I told him no. I told him, no, because you gave it to somebody else. I didn't only tell him no, I told him why. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. So he overpowered me, put me to my knees, put his penis in my mouth. And after he got enough of that, he put me on the bed. And, you know, this was all a struggle. So I had said no.
The story begins with Michelle Evans, a woman who had once been involved in a relationship with Shannon Sharpe. Her life was forever altered in 2010 when, according to her claims, she was sexually assaulted by the NFL legend. At the center of the lawsuit filed in Nevada is an accusation of sexual assault, battery, and sexual battery. According to Evans, what began as a personal argument spiraled into something far more sinister when Sharpe allegedly overpowered her after she refused his advances. Evans, who has remained out of the public eye for years, decided to break. Her silence after the legal battle intensified. Her testimony has been nothing short of chilling. She claims that after Sharpe attempted to force himself on her, she resisted repeatedly, telling him no and explaining why she wasn't willing to comply. But as she recounts, it wasn't a no Sharpe was willing to accept. Despite her objections, he allegedly ignored her and continued to assert control over her body, leading to an event that she says left her devastated and emotionally shattered. As she speaks out, Michelle Evans' emotions are clear. It's not just a matter of recounting what happened that day. It's about confronting years of trauma, fear, and the anxiety that followed. Her testimony is not just about the act of assault, but also about the way in which she was made to feel powerless, and how the influence of a powerful man left her in a state of constant fear. She describes a sense of helplessness that many victims of such crimes can relate to. It is not just the assault itself, but the mental toll it took, which has been difficult to put into words. Through Evans' testimony, we gain insight into the depth of her trauma. But more than that, it's a reminder of how these situations often unfold. The fear, the confusion, and the hesitation to speak up are all too common for survivors of sexual assault. She bravely recounts the physical struggle as well as the emotional and psychological impact it had on her, painting a picture of an encounter that was anything but consensual. It's the kind of story that no one wants to believe. But when it comes from someone like Evans, who has suffered in silence for so long, the truth begins to take shape in an entirely new way.
And here I see Shannon at my job talking about domestic violence, and the co-host mentioned that, oh, you had one that was just totally dropped, made it look like the police dropped it, you know, not that I had gone down and withdrawn it. It created a picture that wasn't accurate. And that was a very hostile work environment.
I'm going to ask something that might be a little like sensitive or might sound insensitive, I should say. But I'm going to go ahead and ask it because it's a question that I'm sure people are wondering. Why didn't you file a police report when he raped you?
Because I was scared for my life. He said he would use it, everybody he knows, and he knows lots of police officers. So I didn't know that if I went down there, that would be one of the people that he knows. You know, Atlanta has a problem with corruption down there. And I was too scared to go to the police. Because when this happens, you're in a trauma mindset. You're not in a, you know, every day you and I are talking here like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should do that. No, you're like fear for your life. You're traumatized. You're not thinking straight. You're having anxiety and panic attacks. And I was worried that he would, get a hold of this police officer, and who knows what would happen. And so it was just a decision, and it's a decision a lot of rape victims make, to not go to the police. They always say the woman is crazy.
One of the most pressing questions surrounding this case is why Michelle Evans didn't report the assault to the authorities when it happened. Many would expect that a situation like this would immediately lead to a police report, but Evans' reasons for not coming forward are both deeply emotional and deeply relatable for many victims of sexual assault. According to Evans, the fear for her safety was overwhelming. Not just fear of the perpetrator, but fear of what might happen if she went to the police. In an emotional interview, Evans explained that she felt trapped in a world where the powerful connections of Shannon Sharpe could easily turn the legal system against her. Sharpe was not just a media figure. He was a man who, according to Evans, knew people in high places, including law enforcement. The fear that he could have used those connections to manipulate the system, or worse, retaliate against her, kept Evans from seeking help in the days following the assault. Evans described how she wasn't just scared for her own safety, she was scared for her daughter, who was living with her at the time. The threats that Sharpe allegedly made against her life were chilling, and it's this element of intimidation that often leaves many victims paralyzed. The concept of being watched, being followed, or having their lives destroyed by a powerful figure can stop someone from speaking out. Evans' story highlights this terrifying reality that far too many survivors face. In her case, the fear of not just physical harm, but the emotional and psychological devastation that would come with speaking out, kept her silent. Despite all of this, Evans eventually filed for a protective order. But, as she recounts, it wasn't enough to stop the harassment. Her life was further invaded when Sharpe's team allegedly leaked her personal information, a violation that left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. It's this pattern of intimidation, manipulation, and fear that many survivors of sexual assault deal with, feeling powerless even when they seek help. For Evans, this pattern of abuse became a never-ending cycle of fear, one that made the decision to go public with her story even more difficult.
Shannon and his attorneys responded with evidence of the relationship being quote-unquote consensual. And Jane Doe's attorney, Tony Busby, responded by releasing audio of an alleged conversation between his client and Shannon. For those that don't know, Tony Busby is the same attorney that filed the lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy, alleging they both sexually assaulted a minor, which has since been withdrawn. Jay-Z has now countersued Busby. Needless to say, the headlines this week took on a life of their own, and as a result, Shannon announced he was stepping away from ESPN. Here's a portion of Shannon's statement that he posted on social media. Quote, "I will be devoting this time to my family and responding and dealing with these false and disruptive allegations set against me. I plan to return to ESPN at the start of the NFL preseason. I sincerely appreciate the overwhelming and ongoing support I have received from my family, fans, friends, and colleagues," end quote. It's been a difficult week from a sports media perspective, certainly as it pertains to First Take. Shannon Sharpe became a friend. When I recruited him to come on board on ESPN's First Take, he came on board and he did a sensational job. No matter the amount of success that we enjoyed for the 12 years prior to his arrival, he helped take it to another level last year. And we were doing our thing this year as well. And so when the news came down that he and ESPN had mutually agreed that he would need to come off the airwaves of ESPN, it was a blow to the show, a blow to me personally, because I'm gonna miss him. But it was not a surprise. When I was on the air just a few days ago, a lot of people were looking for me to say something. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to speak to one's innocence or one's guilt about something I have absolutely positively no knowledge of whatsoever.
As the allegations began to surface, Shannon Sharpe's response was firm and clear. He vehemently denied all claims, asserting that the encounter was consensual and that he had been the target of a baseless shakedown. Sharpe's legal team quickly responded to the accusations, releasing a statement calling the claims completely without merit. According to Sharpe, what Michelle Evans described was not an assault, but a consensual relationship between two adults that had been taken out of context. Sharpe's attorneys released text messages and other evidence meant to prove that the relationship was consensual. However, despite their efforts, the accusations didn't go away. Instead, the media storm intensified, leading to more questions about Sharpe's character and the validity of the evidence that was being presented. Sharpe, in his own defense, has continued to maintain his innocence, insisting that everything that took place between him and Evans was mutual and without coercion. However, as the legal proceedings progressed, Sharpe's defense began to raise eyebrows. While he continued to deny the allegations, the question remained, if everything was truly consensual, why were these accusations coming up now, after so many years? And why did the personal relationship end so abruptly? These questions have fueled public debate and divided opinions, with some rallying behind Sharpe and others calling for a more thorough examination of the facts. Sharpe's legal team has continued to present their case, hoping to clear his name. But as time goes on and more people come forward with similar stories, the pressure on Sharpe to respond intensifies. His public statements have remained adamant, but the damage to his career and reputation is becoming more difficult to ignore.